Well, good afternoon, and welcome to a nice sunny, uh, a nice sunny chapter in the awakening of mind as a whole through my own atonement. I like to remember the basics. So when everything out there in the appearances of things seems to be going full tilt, and sometimes it is. I mean, you only have to turn on the television or pick up a newspaper and there's something new every day about some kind of threat to the existence of life as determined by um, the ignorant uh, aspect of the mind, which is the ego mind, which would have you believe that life is as you see it and as you witness it through the senses, something that seems to be born and live for a little while and then pass away. And of course, that's not true. Life is eternal. Life goes on forever, and there is no such thing as death. And some people would even have you believe that death is a doorway. Well, there is no death. There's no death. The idea that I think I am this avatar sitting here making this video and this whole thing is false. The truth of the matter is that despite the illusion of what seems to be going on, nothing is going on. And this is the paradox. You don't escape this without confronting the paradox, right? Nothing is going on. There is no video and you're not watching anything now. There's no pandemic. There's no vaccine, suspicious, whatever that is that's going on. And there's all of the rest of it, and whilst I can understand that to the mind that does not know its own truth, it has no other reference but to believe in what seems to be the case. In 8-9 billion people out there talking about all sorts of things, I'm offering you the certainty of my reference, which is non-earthly, being one with my Father in eternity, which is telling you directly that this is a dream, this is an illusion from which you have already awoken. Learning that, however, learning to participate and cooperate from within it to free the mind from the belief in the reality of things that seem to be going on out here is why we have a course in miracles with 365 mind training lessons that bring you to a point of experience in your own mind where the world will vanish, your body will vanish, and everything that you think you see and smell and hear and touch and taste will simply disappear before your eyes, and you will remember your reality perfectly as whole and eternal as you were created, one with the creative source of all reality, which we call God or Allah or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. I am simply an aspect of mind that, having had that experience and having gone beyond the physical nature of life as it appears through meditative and prayerful efforts brought about by the dark night of my soul, I can offer you my certainty, and that's all I can offer you, that God is a fact. In that, if God is everything, that must include you. If God is formless and creates in its own likeness, that must include you. If God is spirit, formless and all-encompassing forever, you must be in that as spirit, as part of God. We are not the flesh, we are the spirit. Anyway, remembering the basics like that is something that's always helpful in a moment of confusion, when the illusion finds a way back in and tempts you to want to believe in what seems to be going on in the world as if it were somehow able to control your modality of thought and therefore direct your efforts and actions, which as a disciple or a aspirant, pardon me, of truth, would naturally be to extend the light of your mind and raise up the vibration of truth within the framework of the illusion, to bring about a representation of an alternative, a better way that the idea of others, let's say, which is really the singular self, can begin to get involved in, and so begin to see also changes in its own conscious association with itself, to bring about that experience of oneness within the mind that will free it from any belief that the world is your home or is your reality whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. And it has to be experiential. There has to be experience. There's no point having it as a concept. There's no point studying, let's say, A Course in Miracles or the Bible or the Quran or the Gitas or anything for a lifetime and having no experience, the Bodhisattva, any of that. So the purpose of a spiritual path is to bring about an experience of yourself as what you are, as spirit. So using the catalysts for change then, which are the situations that manifest in your life, learning to use those situations, those relationships with things and people and events and other things like that is important. Those are literally the classroom. The things that trigger you, the things that upset you are literally the teachers and the teaching mechanisms within your life, giving you an opportunity to choose again for a higher purpose rather than to continue to paddle around in circles down here in this kind of bottom dwelling conscious level of the mind that has no real answers and simply changes the form from one thing to another, from one day to the next, so as to attempt to get you to believe that because the form of something looks different, that the situation you find yourself in is different, and it's not true. The situation you find yourself in, regardless of what seems to be showing up out there, is the denial of your own truth. Right? The physical nature of the world that you project out into the blank landscape of, let's say, what we call reality, the earth and everything else, and which comes from our judgments, has nothing to do with truth whatsoever. The truth is within you. Love abides within you. You can't find it out there in someone else, in some other situation that you think is going to make you feel better or feel happy about yourself. And I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings if that's something that sounds like, God damn it. But the truth is true and nothing else matters. And the only place you're going to find it is within yourself. And the only way you can do that is to remove the blocks to your own awareness of it, which are basically your desires or beliefs in which we cherish, which I cherish, the desires to remain separate. Right? It's like, and I had a phone call with a fellow this week, and it took me right back to a moment I had with a beautiful association in my own undoing. Bodhi, his name was, and he had a pencil. He was trying to demonstrate to me the nature of now rather than the past and the future. And he kept holding up this pencil and telling me that this was the only moment I'd seen the pencil and that he'd never held it up before. And in my mind, of course, I was so inured with the idea of time that I couldn't grasp it. It's like, but I just saw you with that pencil a minute ago, and now here you are presenting it again. It's the same pencil. And I couldn't fathom that in that moment he held up the pencil, my mind was referencing a memory of something that I'm telling myself is in the past, and not actually staying in the present, where in this moment, which is the only moment there actually is, I was actually seeing the pencil for the very first time. And I know that's a tricky one to grasp, but and then the other side of that, the future, of course, is to expect to see the pencil again. You know, it's like crazy. What am I talking about? So there's only the now. There's only here and now. And so I was having this conversation with this fellow who'd been reading the course for 5 years or 4 years, and was seeing all sorts of miracles happen in the people around him or whatever, and had some autistic association with it in his own framework that he was struggling to come to terms with, as he was attempting to deal with it in other people, in his family and stuff like that. And of course, it's impossible to deal with anything that way as if it is external. And the idea then that when I presented to him that he wanted the drama, he couldn't hear that. It made him angry that his own particular situation wasn't healing. And I had to present the certainty of my mind that there is only healing. And you can't see it because you want it on your own terms. You're still trying to decide how you think that healing ought to look. And in so doing, actually still voting for the drama, actually voting for the denial of unconditional love, and allowing that to flow through you and heal whatever it is that is the trigger in your own mind that is bringing up that anger or that particular reaction to that situation, as if it were actually outside of yourself. So the perspective I operate from in all things is that there is nothing outside of myself. And in the idea of coming to terms with and accepting my insanity in this world, as well as my perfection, my total sanity in eternity, the two things are one. It's not yin and yang, but it's the two things are one. The nature of constant change in this world is the same as constant changelessness in eternity. And when the acceptance of the world as being a place where there is only constant change comes to abide in the mind, it's an abiding acceptance, my mind will find a state of inner peace, perfect inner peace, where it becomes a singular experience of itself as being a peaceful state, which automatically locks and lines up with like that, with my higher mind, and the joy and the love of remembering again for a moment that in the instant, in this holy instant, my perfection can illuminate my mind again and bring me happiness. Happiness can only come from within. Learning to accept and abide with my goal of inner peace brings me into constant conflict at first, into constant confrontation at first with the particulars of my external situation, so that I can learn the lesson that it is reflecting back to me that needs healing, where I find myself still believing in the idea of separation. It's like I think I'm separate from my world, from the people in it. I think that everyone has autonomy and I'm entitled to my own particular opinions and goals. And it's just simply not true. I'm part of a whole, as above in eternity, so on earth. But my ego mind, that part of my mind that speaks for my reality as being this flesh thing that is doomed to die, etc., would have me believe that I'm separate from all these other things that seem to be going on and other people that seem to be doing their own business around me, where in actual fact, the only reason that I'm aware of any of it is because my own thoughts tell me what it is, which therefore puts the point of origin for my experience of my reality in any way, shape, or form clearly in my own mind. I'm not separate from anyone or anything. That's pretty cool. It's kind of nutty, but it's pretty cool. It's like that's the quantum mind. It's like I'm whole, I'm one. I have an experience of singularity of self, an altruistic experience of self on earth as I do in heaven, or in eternity, in time and in timelessness. So all things presented are opportunities to learn. All things presented are opportunities to stay focused within the framework of my new chosen purpose, which is to apply the principles of my spiritual determination to the particulars of my world, wherever it seems to upset me. It's a classroom. Everything's a classroom. I am both teacher and learner. Physician, heal thyself. I am my own student. Everyone and everything out there is simply my teacher, my external teacher, seen rightly, and gratitude due for that, regardless of whether it seems to be a small part played or a very large part. And all parts are equally rewarded, which is the workers in the vineyard parable. So the particulars of any given situation, having been already healed through the resurrection, are witnessed to by me through my own willingness to accept atonement and to accept the fullness and the fulfillment of that resurrection for myself. I'm learning to walk with Christ as a Christ-minded being, allowing and accepting for the appearances of the mistakes and everything else, knowing that my brothers also are Christ beings with me at their own level. Right now, one of the things I love in the Course in Miracles is where Jesus says the oneness of the sonship does not imply homogeneity here. Okay, everyone's at where they're at, and if you want to look at it in terms of lifetimes, there are those who are here on their, I don't think there's anyone left here on their first incarnation, but within the framework of the illusion of reincarnation, we can look at it that way, because reincarnation is also not true in any way, shape, or form, as also is this not true in any way, shape, or form, me talking to you now. But we treat it as if it is real. We treat it as if it is our reality for a moment, so we can be honest and authentic about where we find ourselves with our feelings and our emotions and stuff for the purpose of healing. But we realize through our experience that it is not our home, that it is not our reality. But it doesn't do any good to two-step going from, there is no world, to I am whole and perfect as God created me, because there's a whole bunch of forgiveness that has to occur in there as a cataclysm. I don't know what you would call that, as an opportunity, as something that happens in the mind, to reveal the nature of divine intercession in one's own experience here, to true the mind up to the present moment, where experientially, not conceptually, not with the thoughts in the head, experientially, I become the witness to truth on earth through the healing of my own relationships with people, situations, pandemics, vaccinations, whatever it is. And it's a journey of faith. The whole thing is a journey of faith. So in using a Course in Miracles, I'm on a few pages, and I'm a bit lighthearted on some of these pages. I tend to take the piss a bit. That's an Aussie thing in Australia. We take the piss. We make fun out of things in a loving kind of a way, you know, like, come on, that sort of thing. But there's often, on one particular Course in Miracles group page, that I'm forever surprised that it's in a Course in Miracles page. And I know that sounds judgmental and the whole thing, and it goes against the idea I just said of being tolerant and patient with the learning of your brothers. But the idea then of letting your spiritual determination be watered down into some kind of a Dear Dorothy Dix kind of self-help page. It's like, if I had to look at myself as a younger version of myself and tell myself anything about my life, the universe, and everything, and how to look at the particulars of my own attempt to find and maintain peace of mind in this world with it, I would tell myself, stop putting my dramas out there on Facebook. Stop asking for other people to verify my denial by looking for answers to my questions on particular forums, and simply apply the principle that you're learning about through the application of those lessons, daily lessons in the course. And if you don't have the course, I would suggest you jump online and order a copy of A Course in Miracles, and there are quite a few editions. It doesn't matter which one you get, as long as you've got the workbook. If you're ordering the white edition, which is the one that I publish, which is a not-for-profit publication, you'll need to order Part A, which is the text, and Part B, which is the manual for teachers and the workbook lessons. It's like I'm learning to be, through my determination to liberate myself from the particulars of whatever my beliefs in separation as being some form of reality go. I'm learning to become dependent on God, on the internal, not the external. So sitting there typing out question after question, does the Holy Spirit this, is God that, all of these things. Those are things that need to be answered within. It's not a religion. A spiritual path is not a religion. Take yourself off to a rock somewhere. Go and sit on a mountain, beside the beach, whatever it takes, and find that integrity to, and I'll tell you a little story here, just to finish up. It's like it's a self-study course. I remember I was living and working at Long Island in the Whitsundays as a gardener, and that might sound quite luxurious, and it was in a certain regard. And there was nothing to do there but really drink and party and everything. I was in my very early 20s. And I struck up a friendship with another fellow on the island. His name was Richard. He was the garbo, which is the rubbish man, collecting the rubbish, for anyone who doesn't know what a garbo is. And you can read about this in my book, From the Top Down Truth by David Fair. Just drop in that one. And Richard and I would often have these quite long theological discussions. He was a Christian, a devout Christian from a certain perspective, and I respected that. I didn't have any qualms with his beliefs or anything like that. And I could tell that he was keen to impart something to me, and I was keen to learn at the time. I was questioning and things like that, but I didn't want to become involved in a formal religious atmosphere particularly. But anyway, it spurred me on a little bit in talking to him, to the point where I realised that this was my journey and I had to do it for myself, just as I'm now offering that to you. This is my journey, one under God, and whatever comes from the inner direction of the Spirit. And it's like when you're ready to find the truth, it will find you. It will direct you in a gentle way that you can think. And so in this particular case, one day I decided, I'd already had some experience with the Brahma Kumari. I spent about 3 months with them, several nights a week, learning their open-eyed meditation techniques and listening to their philosophy as well. That was in Brisbane some years before. And I was keen to pursue, I enjoyed the meditation. It helped me to feel more peaceful, and I was keen to pursue that. But I was beset by the parties and the alcohol-fueled lifestyle of a island staff person, and there was sex, drugs, and alcohol. It was just crazy. But one day I made a decision to that I would go into the bush. I would go up on one of the national park's walking tracks on my day off, and I would try to find a little spot there somewhere up in the national park where I could just sit away from the noise and the constant hubbub of the resort area and the staff quarters, and find a peaceful place where I could practice my meditation. And on that particular day that I went, it was the very first time that I ever heard a voice, an audible voice that wasn't my own, speak to me from what felt like just up and behind me, as like an angel, or as if something was watching me, an audible voice. And I had an experience of walking along that national park's walking track looking for somewhere, and my whole body began to vibrate like crazy, and I began to feel extremely light, as if I was floating. And I started to get nervous, and I started to worry what was happening to me, thinking that some medical condition was happening to me. And I tried to turn around on the track. I tried to turn around and go back to the resort, which was only a few hundred meters behind me. And I couldn't turn around. And then I heard the voice for the first time said, "Don't be afraid." And it sounded like a woman's voice, I guess. I'm not really sure, or a very angelic kind of voice anyway. And I was carried. I felt like hands were under my armpits, and I was carried up through the bush, and I was going much faster than I could walk. And I went past all the particular features that you look at along the track that were marked on the guidebook and the guide leaflet and stuff. And I was taken up this, where there was no track, up this hillside, and I was through the bush, and I'm pushing away vines and stuff. And I got almost to the top of this hillside, and there was a small clearing and overlooking the Whitsunday Passage, which is one of the most beautiful views you could ever hope to see. And the feeling stopped, the buzzing stopped, the vibration stopped. I felt heavy back in my body again. And for some reason, I set about making a stone circle. I don't know why. There was a lot of loose stones, big stones, like just laying around. And as I set about my task of making a little circle for me to sit in, which felt somehow right. Don't ask me why. I'm not a druid. I knew there would be 21 stones, and when I finished the task, which took some time, some of the rocks were quite big, I should say quite big. There were 21 stones, and I sat there meditating and being prayerful for an hour or two, and nothing particularly happened, except for that I heard that first voice, that first confirmation, if you like, that there is something else going on here, and that I am supported by it if I choose to allow that support to buoy me up and guide me. And so learning to become dependent on what has been given you, which is the Holy Spirit within you, has been given you for this teaching learning journey. And I guess, the time will come when you look at the world, and as I have once looked at the world, and where I could see how every avenue that the world offers always ends the same way. And salvation is the only avenue in the world that doesn't end that way. salvation leads always into the unknown, always into the nature of the miraculous, the spontaneous, the incredible. Anyway, I'm not sure where I'm going with this video. I don't know if this is even the one that I intended to make when I came out here to sit down, but that's 30 minutes or so, I think it says on here, 30 minutes and a bit. That's a long one for me. So anyway, try to let go. Let go, have the experience. Let go, accept your wholeness. Whether you've experienced it or not, accept it, include it in, live from it, live from spirit until you have the experience. It's like you'll see it when you believe it. It's like you are supported. You are one with all things already. Live from that, live like that, live miraculously, live with a miracle sense of miracle mindedness, and allow spirit to support you, and you'll see changes happen. Peace.